Take one. I don't know why I said that. This is gonna be one take anyway. This is gonna be a story time about the 37 orgasm night with 2 of my partners. Disclaimer, I'm grown. These are conversations for grown folks about grown folks doing grown folk things. If you're a little too ungrown, not grown, embarrassed, shamed for that,
you need to leave.
Exit stage left. I implore you. I beg you. Actually, I'm demanding it. Get out the way. So, I'll set the scene for you. At the time, like I said, I'm 19 years old. This was a great year for me when it came to partners. I had 5 partners in total when I was 19. There was a couple in Philly, there were 2 local partners, and then a comet partner that still lived on the West Coast. I'll set the scene for you. The 2 partners that we are discussing were people I was in well-established DS dynamics with. I actually met them within like 2 weeks of each other. The first one we'll call Dean. Dean was the dean of an all-boys private school in New York City. He was 64. Am I a victim?
You're a victim.
It doesn't even matter at this point. Would I have done that? Absolutely not. Was I 19 and thought that I was grown enough for everything? Of course I was. Did not strike me at the time. Like many people, I thought I was mature enough. So, Dean was a dean, 64 when we met, and very, very kinky. Very, like, me and him shared a love for hedonism. Like I tell people all the time, kink is just the avenue at which my hedonism is displayed sexually. I'm just pleasure seeking. If it feels good, if everybody's having fun, I am with it. I'm here for a good time, not a long time. Not me. But that's Dean. Then I was also in an established dynamic with I'm gonna say a J name because he was evil. We'll call him Joseph. Joseph was, when we met, 29. He was in residency in the ED. He was a doctor. I met them within, again, like very short time with each other. At the time, I was really not even playing across the slash yet. I was still way too new in the kink community to have like a real confidence in myself to be doming people. I knew it was something I wanted to do, but I wasn't doing it at the time. So I was playing as the sub for both of them. We were in well-established dynamics. To no shock to anyone, me and Dean were in a DDOG dynamic because fitting, right? And then me and Joseph were in a more traditional DS dynamic, right? And the interesting thing about all of this is that both of them were in like relationships. Dean was married and Joseph was engaged. To explain, Dean wasn't polyamorous in the sense that he was polyamorous, his wife was not. He was cheating. He was being a cheater. I knew that at the time. I was young. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I continued to be a mistress for like 5 years after that. So Dean was married. Him and his wife had been together since college. They were college sweethearts. They had a beautiful apartment on a very expensive block in New York City. And they had an established world, like, you know, a ton of friends together. They vacationed in Nantucket, like had a home in Nantucket. Their daughter was in her 30s. Again, we were talking about a 64-year-old man. And so that was his life. But his wife wasn't kinky. She was vanilla. And as he aged, allegedly, and I shouldn't even say allegedly because he was never a liar. Like literally the day that we met, he was like, I'm married. My wife does not know. I will be cheating, if anything. And I was like, okay, sure. Because again, 19-year-olds are selfish. So he's kinky, she's not. So he started going out on the side, but deeply in love with his wife. I feel the need to impart this on people because there's like a misconception. And as somebody who has been with like many like married man in a professional and personal capacity, you can tell the ones who really love their wives. He loved her. It just, that didn't matter enough. It wasn't enough to stop him from cheating. So he is kinky or whatever, and he has partners. Now, mind you, he has an established sub already. We'll call her Christina. She's 32 when we all meet, and they've been playing for years as well. So he's just kind of doing him. He's having a time, you know, being a philanderer. Then Joseph was in a true polyam relationship. Like him, we'll call his fiance Tanya, were playing with each other's knowledge. They didn't play together, but they played with each other's knowledge. Like I met her, she knew about me, she hated me. Ended up finding out later, years later, why that was. She hated me, but they knew they were playing, right? So Joseph is going about things the right way. Dean is not. I'm playing with both of them in a parallel fashion. So kind of slotting them into my time because I was working full time. I was hoeing at night, and I started going back to school full time because I was trying to pursue the college degree that took me 6.5 fucking years to get. So all of this is happening. Ton of moving parts. Slotting them into schedules. I mean, stuff like Dean is picking me up from school to go be with him for a couple hours. I'm leaving him, taking the train, going to see Joseph after he gets off of the ED. Like I was only the energy you can muster at 19 is the whole reason why I was even able to do any of this shit. So that's going on. Everything is fine. It's perfect. Me and Joseph are in a very traditional, strict DS dynamic. Our rules are very laid out. I had standing orders, and we made sure they didn't interfere with me and Dean's stuff, even though Dean was on the more loosey-goosey, again, like me, he didn't decide. So at some point, about close to a year in for these parallel relationships, I'm at this point with Dean playing with multiple people. So like he had a network of friends who were cheating on their wives with like kinky women. They weren't always younger either. Like just generally kinky women. Like I went out to dinner as his like partner with like some of his lifelong friends that also had partners. It's hot mess, honey. Anywho, so like it was given, why did I get married, for real? It was given a Tyler Perry production. So at that point, we're playing so much that he's like, you know, I know that you want to dom. Like, do you want me to set you up with opportunities for that? And I was like, in what way? He's like, well, I'm not going to let you top me. I don't like sub anymore. He learned old guard way. So he's like, I haven't subbed since I was learning. But if you want to, you know, dom Caroline, you can. So it became an alpha sub situation where I was his sub, I was Carolyn's dom. And then if there were other people we were playing with, it depended on like the day, I could do whatever. So I really got to grow my skills, and for that I will always be grateful with Dean because he never said no. He never thought questions were stupid. He was always letting me kind of like fail up, and I appreciated that a lot about him. So at that point I'm getting like more self-assurance, more confident. Joseph is noticing this because also as I'm subbing, I'm like starting to top from the bottom. I'm demanding more of him. I should have, to be clear. He wasn't he was a great dom, like on book, perfect dom, but I wanted more. And he started to sense that restlessness, which built in a resentment for Dean because in his head, Dean fucked up his perfect scenario, right? So that's brewing in Joseph's head. Let's fast forward to around Christmas time. Both me and Joseph are working because we're both in healthcare at the time. So we're both working like 18-hour shift, like Christmas shift, right? After that, he goes to a Christmas party with other friends who had to work on Christmas Day and Christmas evening. So, you know, there's this Christmas party. He goes to the Christmas party. He gets plastered there, which is important to mention because Joseph does not drink. His father was an abusive alcoholic. He does not drink. So he like drank like maybe like once or twice a year in the time that I knew him. He goes to this party, gets plastered. We were supposed to meet up after this party. I call him to see where he is because I'm like, look, I'm over here. I'm going to get to you at some point, da 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 da. And on the phone, we get into an argument that was so out of pocket. I don't even to this day remember how it started, but I remember he said like truly one of the most deplorable things someone, at least at 19, could have ever said to me. I was heartbroken. So we're screaming at each other on the phone. I'm like, you know what? Fuck you. I don't even know if I want to do this anymore. Click. So, you know, bang the phone on him. Don't think about it. I work, I go home, I cry, whatever. Next time I see Dean, I get in Dean's car. He looks at me, like 2 seconds, looks at me, and he's like, are you okay? Like, I can tell something is off. And naturally, again, we're in a DDLG dynamic anyway. There's like this inherent, you know, extra fondness to it. I start sobbing. I tell him the whole thing. Rookie mistake. If you are new to polyam or have never done that type of drama, I will tell you now, never talk about metamors to other metamors. Not in that sense. It just doesn't work out for you or them in the end. But again, I'm a rookie at this point. I am like a young duckling. So I ball my eyes out to Dean. I tell him everything. He's livid. Literally, the conversation ends, I finish my piece, I'm like wiping the tears off my face. He's stone-faced the whole time, and then he just turns to me and he's like, I'm gonna fuck him up. And I was like, no, 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 we don't need this. He's like, no, I'm gonna fuck him up. I'm gonna make him my bitch for doing this to you. I'm like, no, it's not that serious. Put it to the burner. So very much, look at me, this is not you. This is not you. So that happens, right? So now on both sides there's resentment, because after all of this happens, me and Joseph make up, which is an entirely separate story, because me and Joseph made up because I was planning to do a John Tucker must die situation, which is what I did. I was very successful as well. That, let me know if y'all want to know that story. But essentially, I got back with Joseph so I could break his heart. This was my revenge. So me and Joseph get back together. Dean, very unhappy about that. He thinks I deserve better. He said, fuck Joseph. Since this whole thing happened, like I said, at this point, it has just dawned on me that Joseph hates Dean for fucking up his arrangement by making me more, like, by fostering my dominance. And so making me a more questioning sub. And so there's resentment building on both sides. They hate each other now. Not even silently, really, but they're crossing paths all the time, because we're essentially doing Passovers. Like, you're driving me to this place, I'm catching a train going to this place, I'm calling you like, hey, da-da-da-da, you hear him in the background. So it was really, really messy, but they knew they couldn't say anything to me because I was the only one who was like single in this situation, where I practiced solo polyamory, or at the time I did. Now I'm more leaning toward relationship anarchy, but basically, even if I'm in a relationship, I'm single. So they couldn't really say much to me. I was honoring all of our agreements. And then at some point, this tension continued to build and build and build, where like they were almost trying to recruit other people for me to be with to get me to dump each other. And I was like, I smell a plot. I see what y'all got going on. I'm not doing this. I like you both too much. I was actually in love with both of them at that point anyway. So I was like, I'm in love with you both. I'm in this. I'm locked in. You can't do this to me. And so I'm like, how do we resolve this? So one night I'm with Dean, right? Me and him are chilling. We just had a session. We're doing aftercare. And then I just turned to him and I'm like, I can't have you and Joseph doing this to me for God knows how long until all of this ends with all of us. How do we resolve this? Like, what do you think will resolve this for you? And he was like, if we can't fight it out, then we have to fuck it out. And I was like,
I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon.
I don't really know what that's gonna look like, because at the time I had never been co-topped. I had never done like that type of group play. I was used to really explicitly laid dynamics and lines of separation. And so I was like, I don't know what that would look like. I don't know how comfortable I am with that. I was like, on top of the fact that even though you're not straight, he is. Like, Joseph is entirely heterosexual. Like, he doesn't play with men. And he was like, trust me, we'll make it work. Find out if he's in it to it. So me and Joseph get together. We have like a really great scene. I timed the question perfectly. Like, he's riding his like dom high, I could tell. And I'm like, you know, I really think maybe if you and Dean were to top me together, were to dom me together, you'd realize how much you have in common. Like, is that something that would interest you? And like, we can see finally, like, you know, who's taking care of me best. So like, now I'm revving up the competitive spirit, because Joseph's very competitive, just naturally. He's a very competitive person. And so I'm like, you know, wouldn't this be like a great flex? Like, to be the better of him or whatever? Like, he's double your age. He's been doing this way longer. Wouldn't it be great if you were to come out like on top? And he was like, I'm gonna think about it. And then like 2 days later, he texted me and he was like, yeah, let's set it up. So it took a while to get there, because again, everybody's schedule is different. Dean is, you know, he's a dean. Joe is in the ER. I'm doing literally 5, 6, 7, 8 things all the time. So it takes us months to get there. But once it happens, we get there. We have a mutually agreed upon place. I choose the place. We all go there. I wanted to be in a third party space. So I was like, no, we're getting a telly. I'm not going to do this in either of these spaces I'm usually playing with either of you, because I think that like home court advantage. Like, I was really trying to officiate a fucking NBA game or something. Naturally, everybody knows I'm late. I'm a late ass bitch. I am a late ass bitch. Y'all know that. I run on CP time. Historically, I will be late to my fucking cremation. I'll be late to the afterlife. I'll be late everywhere. It don't fucking matter. So I'm late. And I'm pissed off that I'm late, because I'm like, fuck, who's there? They're already in the room by the time I get there. So I'm like, I don't know how long they've been there. I don't know like what kind of conversations have happened. And then I open the door, like, because again, they're both there, I already know that, and they're just both staring at me, like, kind of inquisitively, and I'm like, fuck, like, what happened? Like, what happened before I was there? Damn, I don't know how much I can say on this app. Okay, so then Dean puts me over his knee. I do, again, standing order. Every time we start a scene, every time we start a session, I had a certain amount of, like, spanks that I had to do. It was, again, mutually agreed upon or whatever. So I give him my 20, and as this is happening, I'm like, again, I'm over his knee, right? So OTK. So I'm like this over his knee, and Joseph is just beaming me like this, and I'm like, fuck, this is gonna go so bad. This is gonna go so bad. He's already angry, and then it didn't go bad. It did not go bad at all. The caveat was that, again, at the time, I didn't really know what co-tapping could look like or would look like. I'm like, am I taking kind of like separate instruction and orders from the both of you? Are you co-conspiring on these orders? I've like built in this competition naturally with at least one of you, and like, I don't know what this is going to look like. What it ended up looking like was more like a mutual like, I don't want to say punishment. It wasn't, I had a great time, but it was like, it was a punishment. It was a punishment because at that point they knew I was kind of playing them. And so it was like, no, like, you can't be doing shit like this. This is manipulative. Psych, I'm manipulative. So I ended up getting punished. But that punishment ended up being like exclusively related to orgasm denial, control, and forced orgasms, which is like one of my favorite types of play on either side of the slash. There was just something really magical about it because like the hatred for each other was getting channeled through me. Like, I could literally feel the energy of resentment be passed through my holes. Like, that sounds ridiculous, but it's very true. Dean's back there like, right? And I can feel it like a dagger, like it's going through me. And then Joseph's over here like, and I'm just like, I'm in the middle as a funnel to channel this male aggression in a way that is healthy, in a way that I can enjoy. Because again, like, both of them, very faulted men in different ways, very good doms. I would never take that away from either of them. I'm naturally pretty orgasmic. Once I break like 12 to 15 orgasms, they're just kind of like going. And they both obviously know this with me because they've been playing with me both for over a year. And so at some point, I'm in like a full Eiffel. I'm barely coherent, and then they're talking about me over me. Like, there's degradation going this way, there's praise going this way, there's some weird fuckery of the both of them happening. And then I look up like that because Joseph's in front of me, and he looks down and he's like, I want to see which one of us can make you cry. And I was like,
cut the cameras. Dead ass.
Please. Because again, for me, it's all about catharsis, right? I want release, whatever that release looks like. And so the competition continued to ensue within these circumstances where Joseph was like, I know what's going to make you cry. I just want to see which one of us can get you there first. And I was like, okay, let's find out. And that's how I ended up at 37 that night, because once I break like 25-ish, that's where I get into tears territory, where like it all hurts and it all feels good and I don't want it to stop and I need it to stop, and like, you know, all those conflicting feelings that happen in subspace. And we all had clickers, like counters, because again, like, everybody was trained old guard, so like very common way to keep track. Usually you would keep track of it if it's like, you know, a certain amount of like infractions against you, you know, if you work on a point system, if it's about counting spanks, whatever it may be. So there was a counter like that. I'll pop it on the screen, and they were using that, and I kind of had to report them, like my orgasms, at some point, because I'm like naturally not very loud. So it's not like you can tell from hearing me. It's more like I have to almost announce it. It's a very internal process for me. And I knew Like, I knew I was like blacked out, like I was going to black out at that last one, and I like kept saying, I was like, this is it, this is it. Like, even though I'm barely coherent, but they can hear it in the gibberish. So I'm like, and they're like, let's see, hit 37. The second it started, again, I've never had a reaction like that in my life. At that point, I'm just face down in a pillow. I screamed my lungs out into that pillow and I blacked out. Like, I think I lost consciousness for a couple seconds, but like fully blacked out. I was like, ah! And when I came to, Joseph was getting out of the shower because he, like me, has OCD, and Dean was giving me aftercare. And he was like, you did really good. This was really fun. Are you okay? And I was like, full gibberish. Like, couldn't speak, couldn't think. I knew who they were. I felt like, it felt like, if you've ever tripped, like if you've ever taken hallucinogens, it felt like
that portion of a trip where you think it's over, like you're coming into some clarity, but your body isn't working yet, like it doesn't want to fully work yet.
But like your mental clarity is coming back. So like I could,
I'ma scope the scenery out. Watch out.
tell what was going on. I could tell what had just happened. I just didn't know how to respond. At that point, I need like full compression, like lay on me. So I'm just like, and we just had a big cuddle puddle. And it was great. It was really, really great. It was really, really fun. It was. And then after that happened, my plan with Joseph continued to ensue. Because again, I was there with a plan. Like, me staying with him was not with, it was with like malicious intent. Wholeheartedly malicious content. Like, I knew he was deep, but not deep enough. I wanted it to hurt when I left him. So after that, it really like kicked my plans up. And it also put them in like a very tepid truce. Like, neither of them really loved each other, like necessarily, but they realized that night that it was not about either of them. It was about me. It was about how they were serving me, how I was choosing to serve them, and how they could honor that service by giving me what I wanted, which was, again, a truce between, at the time at least, the people I was seeing the most and the relationships I was most like intimately enmeshed with. Be in his like mid to late 70s. He might be like, oh God. This is Nia in post coming to say I'm the original Ellen in Nosferatu. But and Joseph and Tanya have to have kids and are married and living in one of my favorite cities in this country. And every time I'm in that city, I lament the fact that I can't go certain places because I know I will run into him, because me and him, again, both have OCD, both of us are autistic, both of us are creatures of habit. And there are places I know for sure he's going to go to. It doesn't matter who else he took there for the rest of his life. And I cannot run into him at one of my previously favorite brunch spots. So, yeah, that's tea. That's the 37 orgasm night. Hope you enjoyed. I couldn't even give details because, again, I'm so new to this, like, YouTube shit. I don't know what you can say on here yet. Once I figure it out, though, she'll get more explicit. Until next time. Why did I do that? Why did I do that? What does this sign mean? I hope I'm not throwing something crazy up.